Sorry, I know it's early. On a scale of 1 to 10, how horny was Tony Romo for Dolly Parton?
Can I go 20? Does it have to be 10? I don't think 10 can be a limit.
It could be off the scale if that's what
It's
you believe.
very much off the scale.
That whole interaction was hilarious.
Count me in as a 45.
No, she looked good. She definitely looked good. But I just love Tony coming back from break, and he was just like, "Oh, Jim, you see Dolly? Oh, and then of course Jim Nantz is like, "Tell me about the second half. I wish I could, but I gotta contain my chub here. Listen."
Did you see the beginning of the broadcast between them two?
I did not.
It was a little awkward because Tony was trying to be all chummy for Thanksgiving. Did he call Thanksgiving games before? I really don't.
No, yeah, of course.
He just, for whatever reason, like, was trying to be all holiday, festive, globbing on to Jim at the beginning. It was kind of weird because Nance is like, "Hello, friends, and Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend Tony, and your entire family, and your family's family, and your family for generations to come, Tony." And oh, Jim, and then he gives him a big hug.
Dude, Tony likes to be goofy these days. I think sometimes he goes back to calling the play before it happens, but he really focuses on the comedy, which is not his strong suit. There was a lot of awkward moments in all the broadcasts this past weekend for Thanksgiving games.
Yeah.
I would say Tony Romo was more horny for Dolly Parton than Terry Bradshaw was for, God, what is her name? Antonia.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that part. I was driving. I was driving home at that point from work because I did work Thanksgiving morning, and I was driving home.
I commend you, sir, because that is not fun to do on Thanksgiving. I've done that before on NFL Network, and it's not fun.
Yeah, but I didn't watch that part, but I saw the headline. And, I saw the tweet that Terry Bradshaw had to grabbed and kissed someone on the cheek, a chef or something, and he had to go on Twitter.
You've seen her before. She's on she's on the Food Network. She's very good. She looked uncomfortable, but I will say this also. She said it was a harmless gesture, so I think we should all just leave it at that. I know, like, when women don't want to be kissed, you shouldn't kiss them. But at the same time, if they say it's no big deal, then I say let's just let it go. But then again, Terry Bradshaw's been kind of weird this year. A lot of weird moments.
Well, we talked about it really at week 1, didn't we?
Yeah, he was fumbling and stumbling through the highlights. Also, did you catch any of the Black Friday game yesterday?
No, because I was watching the Sharks.
Fair enough.
I was at the Sharks game, so Yeah. Good for the NFL though for curbing the. I was about to say curb stomping for curbing the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which does not allow, which restricts NFL games from being played after 4 p.m. because they didn't want to ruin the attendance of high school and college games. True story. Look it up.
No, I know about that, but I think there's a certain time of the year where they could do that.
No, that you can but you could do it at 12. You could do it in the middle of the day, and that's why that game was played at 12.
Well, I thought people were at home usually the day after Thanksgiving anyway, so they were just chilling at home, and that'd be fine for the broadcast. But Al Michaels had himself a field day yesterday. When Tyreek Hill scored the touchdown, he goes, "Hey," Tyreek Hill gave the ball to his wife, and he goes, "Well, Tyreek Hill just got newly married, and you hope that's his wife." And we're like, "Yeah, Al, that's his wife. Let's not be weird here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, turns out it is her." Then he tells this weird story about how when Mike McDaniel was coaching running backs, this one running back was dancing with this girl, and Mike McDaniel said, "Stop doing that." And then Mike McDaniel got to know the girl himself, and come to find out they got married. Do you believe in miracles? And then he brought up how he used to call games with OJ. They, speaking of another chef, they made sandwiches from David Chow, or I believe that's his name, David Chow or David Chang.
David Chang. David Chow is the doctor.
That's correct. Sorry, David Chang, who is another well-known chef on the Food Network. He made sandwiches for Kirk Herbstreit, and Al Michaels.
Mm.
And he's about to eat it, and then Al Michaels goes, "Oh, I see a lot of leafy greens on there. No chance." And then they bring out a tomahawk steak for him. He's like, "Now that's what I'm talking about."
Jeez.
Al Michaels had himself a day yesterday when it was clear that he did not want to call a Jets-Dolphins game on a Friday.
Clearly not, man. Why would you? And AJ Cruz is saying that Black Friday game made no sense. Absolutely not. It didn't make any sense except for the pocketbooks of the NFL.
Oh, 100%.
Amazon's like, dude, we'll pay you any amount of money. Just let us get one game on Black Friday so we could hawk all of our Black Friday deals on the commercials. Like, we will give you just a priceless amount. Just we'll give you a blank check. Just let us have a Black Friday game.
I don't know. You obviously didn't watch the game, Steven, but every commercial was David Levine from Workaholics being like, "Hey, guys, hope you're enjoying the game. And there's tons of fun things to buy on Amazon right now."
David Levine?
Adam Levine? Sorry, I'm fucking everybody's names up these days.
Adam Devine.
Adam Levine.
Adam Levine is the lead singer of Maroon 5.
That's right.
You're on a roll.
I know. I'm getting up there in age now where I'm one of those old people that's like, "What's his name?"
Yeah.
And then I jumble the names together.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? It's very early, but thank you for joining us. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa, for Just Your Opinion, man. We're on early because I think everybody wants to watch Michigan and Ohio State in an hour or so. And also I got to catch a flight fairly soon. And Stephen wants to go see the thrilling game of Notre Dame and Stanford later on today.
I just want to watch Notre Dame's quarterback do the Prince Charming when he takes off his helmet.
Does he do that?
What's his name?
I don't know, actually. But I hear he's fairly good. I've watched him a few times this year. I'll get him for you. Hang on. Yeah, he's solid.
Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
I want to see him do. Man. He does. Have you seen him? He looks like something out of a movie with like knights in shining armor, a damsel in distress just looking for her Prince Charming. But he's not Prince Charming. He is the anti-Prince Charming. He is the guy who starts out as Prince Charming's friend and then turns evil later in the movie. That's who he is.
So you're talking about the guy from Shrek or Shrek 2? Isn't that Prince Charming an asshole?
So that just makes Prince Charming the dick. No, like and in this scenario, Prince Charming is actually Prince Charming, and his friend is also. It seems like he's his friend until he turns on him later in the movie. That's who Sam Hartman looks like. He looks like that guy.
Gotcha. I'm sure I don't understand, but whatever. We'll have fun today. I've been to Notre Dame, Stanford before at the farm. I went, I think in 2009, and it was. I want to say Andrew Luck's first year. Andrew Luck and Toby Gerhard versus Notre Dame, and that was a wild game. So that's always fun. Regardless of the records, Notre Dame, Stanford's always fun.
I don't want to really – maybe I can divulge this. I'm not going to disrespect anyone. But when I went to the Earthquakes and Galaxy game, the California Classico was held at Stanford Stadium, as one of those games is, and every year. And I ended up getting free ticks, and me and my friends went along and packed, a whole, cooler full of Bud Light Lime. We were big on Bud Light Lime at that time. This was a few years ago. It's delicious.
You and John Curley love those Bud Light Limes.
It's Bud Light Lime, dude. Bud Light Lime. You want a lime? And we went there. The line for traffic was super long getting in. Like the logistics of how it works, I don't know, but it was way too packed for whatever they planned. You had to like drive through downtown Palo Alto first in order to get there. But it was so long. We waited in that line, I want to say for like 2 or 3 hours. It was legitimately, we got there early to tailgate because we knew Stanford's a dry campus. So we wanted to do a little bit of drinking, and I think we had like a barbecue set up and everything. We were prepared. And we didn't get in there until I think the very beginning of the game, maybe a couple of minutes into it. And we're like, well, we bought all this beer. We should at least drink this before we go in. We could just buy food later. And we're like, we'll just go in at halftime. And then we drink the beer. We try to get in, and we try to get in the second half. We didn't get there in time for halftime. We tried to go to the second half. They didn't even let us into the stadium because it was too late. So we just ended up sitting in the back tailgating all the time, kind of watching it on the phone. And
probably more fun.
Yeah. I mean, no, come on. Soccer games are awesome. But yeah, man, it was like, damn. And then someone came up to us willing to pay whatever amount just for a beer because they were a bunch of fraternity bros trying to get their drink on. So yeah, they ended up giving us like $20 just for like 2 Bud Light limes. So it's like $10 per lime, worth it.
There you go. No, Stanford tailgates are fun because that's the only spot you get the beer. So I remember going there, running into Jim Plunkett and all of the alumni. I went there with my dad. I'll tell this story real quick. That same game I went to in 2009, I'm there with my dad and one of his good friends, and we're all drinking before the game, and we're talking about the Niners at the current time, and Alex Smith was the quarterback, and my dad's friend just goes on and on and on about how Alex Smith is not good. And this guy comes out of nowhere and goes, I beg to differ. I think Alex Smith is actually pretty good. And my dad's friend's like, no, stop it. What are you talking about? He's not good at all. I would say he's kind of reminds me of Steve Young, and I would even say Steve Young wasn't that good. And this guy goes, what are you talking about? Steve Young's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, you have no idea what you're talking about. What do you know? The guy goes, I know what I'm talking about. I own the team. And the guy goes, I'm sorry, who are you? He goes, I'm Jed York. Nice to meet you.
Oh my God.
We're all like, you have no idea who you're talking to right now?
Oh my, wow.
Yeah. Embarrassing moment for that guy.
It's crazy.
Yep.
And now it's full circle.
I guess, yeah. All right. Well, first and foremost, Stephen, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was delicious. Delicious. Good Thanksgiving,
Delicious time with family.
Delicious time with family. Got there early. The kids super loud. But it was awesome. It was awesome. How about yours?
Just chill with my mom. I really am now thinking about what I said the other day when I think turkey's overrated. We had a good turkey. We tried to make it as moist as possible. We put mayonnaise on it and then put it in the oven because that's an old trick.
Oh yeah. Good call on that. Mayonnaise is underrated in that regard to put around meat like that.
Yes. So turkey was fine, but I'm thinking to myself that I'm not a big turkey guy. I got to find a way to make it more to my liking, I guess. Fried turkey, or I did something yesterday that I actually really liked. So I got the turkey leftovers. We got steak. I cooked the steak in the air fryer. Warmed up the turkey leftovers. Got myself some sourdough bread. Got myself a mix of mayonnaise, garlic paste, and horseradish. Made myself a nice little dip. Put that together. Got myself a nice chimichurri sauce. Put the sourdough bread into the oven. Cooked that, and then myself a nice little next day sandwich with a mix of steak and turkey, and it was quite good.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we had a ton of leftovers in the fridge, but we haven't had a chance to eat them yet because we were out all day yesterday. So
turkey, Thanksgiving leftovers are always the best, and maybe better than the actual day of, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because it's all separate, but you could put it all into one big anything, really.
Exactly.
There's so many of those coming out now. There was like a turkey pot pie that I'm seeing the day after, where you just stuff everything with like within a cast iron pan, then you cover it in like whatever it is, I'm blanking on the word. The crust, and then you just mix it all together into a pot pie, or just go with the classic sandwich.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I love. There's always great things you can eat cold. I think you can eat pizza cold. You can eat Chinese food cold, except for rice, and you can always eat turkey leftovers cold.
Yeah. No, pizza's the number one though for me. I can eat pizza cold like it's nobody's business. It's gross how much pizza cold pizza I can eat.
That's how I grew up. Just having the pizza leftovers. DiGiorno pizza tastes really good the next day cold.
Like a classic Italian family.
There you go.
You are. Cold DiGiorno pizza growing up.
So in between all of the family and food, there was football. And we had 4 games to talk about. The Jets-Dolphins game wasn't much of a game, but I'll get to that. Actually, most of these games weren't much of a game, except for Lions and Packers. That was fairly close. But let's start with the Niners. They beat up on the Seahawks 31-13. And this rivalry is totally flipped since Russell Wilson has left the division. 4 in a row for the 49ers against the Seahawks. Back in the day, or most of Kyle Shanahan's tenure as 49ers head coach, they could not get it done against the Seahawks, and now they seem to have established dominance against them. And they totally flip it because the big takeaway from this game wasn't actually the game itself. It was all of the 49ers coming to the 50 and getting revenge on Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson when almost 10 years ago they beat the 49ers at the newly opened Levi's and they ate turkey at the 50. Mm-hmm. And they flipped that. All the players came out. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, all the big faces and names were all eating turkey, and then George Kittle took it back to the locker room. It was symbolic, I think, that the tide has turned in their favor for them being kind of the bullies of the NFC West, and they pretty much showed it in the way they played the game.
I have a feeling, though, that it didn't. I don't think the Niners players took as much pride in the whole idea of eating turkey on the 50 to get revenge for 2014, say, as opposed to any players who actually played on that team, because that was nearly 10 years ago. There's nobody currently in this regime except for maybe a couple of assistant coaches who have been with the team for as long, because it's just a totally different ball game. Like, I didn't really hear much about how from the players during the week. I didn't really hear much about how like 2014 was on their mind, was in the back of their mind, because these guys are professionals, and I know we like to think that they're super dedicated, they bleed whatever the team's colors are, but in the end, they're professional football players, and they'll go wherever they need to go. If they could stay with one team, great, but they'll be willing to go anywhere else if the money's right. So I just don't think it meant as much to the players personally as it maybe did to the fans, because fans still hate that, and I totally understand why. I totally get it. So to me, what I'm getting at is that was a huge win for the fans, and I think it was much bigger for the fans than it was for the players, because I think the players are just like, yeah, we just rolled through the Seahawks again. This is how it is. Like, this is but you're right, though. It is symbolic of a total change, a turn in the tide of these two teams.
I would say, though, that I think George Kittle was aware, because otherwise I don't think he would have taken the turkey back. Like, I know that a lot of those players, that was 10 years ago, and a lot of them don't probably even remember that. But I think they know the history. Like, George Kittle obviously wore the Gary Plummer shirt when they beat up on the Cowboys. So while I don't think that they were going to say anything to the media, because, that's 10 years ago, they're not really involved with that, I think in the moment they were thinking, okay, this is payback for what happened to the franchise 10 years ago. But I'll say this too. Total classless act.
What, taking the turkey?
Just eating the turkey on the 50. You don't have to stoop down to the Seahawks level. Be above it. Classless.
Everyone does it, though.
I know, I'm joking. I thought I'd be a curmudgeon like when I was talking about Christian McCaffrey going for the touchdown record.
Yeah, you should keep that shtick up. You shouldn't have admitted it. You should have kept your argument going. Should have kept this like ESPN and just started arguing something that you don't believe.
It's blasphemous that they took the turkey.
Yeah. Dude, about that game, like last week, I was talking about the bigger picture with Brock Purdy, which I think was maybe like appropriate for the week following, because I was thinking of Steve Young's comments, and just how this regular season team, like, I kind of know what I'm getting every single week if this team's healthy. And I don't know what I'm getting once it comes playoff time and they got to play these elite teams, or rather these better teams that could actually put up some points early on them. But what I think that's more of a coaching problem, though. And that's what I thought about after that podcast. I think it's more of a Kyle Shanahan thing. It has nothing to do with the players, it has nothing to do with Purdy. I think it's more of a Kyle Shanahan thing for me in that regard. But I don't think there's any denying. And you asked me last week, who's the top team in the league? Are the 49ers back there? I don't know. I'd probably still put the Eagles there because of the record. But, God, there's no team, when healthy, who's just week in, week out, just utter dominance throughout these games. Like, these past 3 games haven't just been wins since that losing streak. They have blown these teams out. Yeah. And I don't think I'm seeing the Eagles or the Lions, for example, just cruising week after week against their opponent. Like the Niners are. Kyle Shanahan just always in his bag. That opening possession really set the tone. Like, everybody was open. Brock Purdy made a couple of nice throws, and they got into the end zone. It was just from start to not necessarily to finish, because Purdy did have that pick six to open up the second half, and they actually called holding on the Jackson Smith and Jigba play. Mm-hmm. Then maybe it could have been a different outcome. But just week after week, man, they find this way to not just beat teams, but to crush teams. And I don't think that's something you could say for the Eagles.
Yeah, I would say the only bad play of the game was pretty much they came out a little sluggish in the second half, and Brock Purdy threw that pick six. But they beat up on the Seahawks, mainly because I think Geno Smith shouldn't have played in that game. You saw in the broadcast, they were showing the pictures of him during the production meetings, just laying on the table while he was getting his arm worked at. And I was like, it's kind of weird. Like, why would they show that? And I they wouldn't release that unless Geno Smith was comfortable with that. But like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. We're like, here's a guy with his shirt off and he's working on his bicep.
Yeah.
But
now here's a doctor who really knows what he's doing. I don't even know what you're doing. That's why the doctor knows. Well, that's why he's a doctor and I'm a broadcaster.
I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm buying shit. I'm buying fish for $800. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I mean, it's clear that when the Niners are healthy, they are one of the more dominant teams in football, if not the most dominant team in football. 16 sacks in the last 3 games since getting Chase Young. The defense looks even better than before. Nick Bosa, 5 sacks in the last 3 games since he got his fellow Buckeye in Chase Young. And Brock Purdy just really plays well against Seattle since he won over Kyle Shanahan a year ago when they went to Seattle, when he was on that short week and he played his ass off despite whatever injury he had at the time. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a rib. I forget. No, they just beat up on Seattle. That Seattle does not have the talent to stop them. Since last year in that Thursday night game to the playoff game. Honestly, just watching this team now, the last 3 weeks, it's clear when they have everybody healthy, they are dominant. Like I said, having Trent Williams back, having Debo back is huge. Like just anyone that doesn't think that Kyle Shanahan is that good, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like the way that they're able to have these formations where you can't tell who's the wide receiver, who's the running back between McCaffrey and Debo, the handoffs, it's beautiful football. And I'm tired of every year there's at some point where some people are like, is Kyle Shanahan, does he know what he's doing? Or he's rude to the media. Getting to know him a little bit. I wouldn't say I know him at all. I don't talk to him when we do these interviews on Tolbert to Copes. He just does the ISDN line and puts the headset on. But getting a feel for him, he likes media members that just let him talk about being a head coach. They don't grill him on stuff. There's a lot of people that cover the 49ers that think they know better than Kyle Shanahan. And the truth is you don't. So I think we need to let it go, whatever animosity people have towards him. I know people think that I'm a Niner hater at times. I love Kyle Shanahan. I think that he is one of the more brilliant minds of football, and it's clear on a week in and week out basis just how he's like the acquisition of Christian McCaffrey is unbelievable. How defenses are constantly on their toes between McCaffrey and Debo. It's exciting football to watch. It's great offensive football.
Yeah, it's just constant, dude. But he also has the players too. Yep. Like some of these, like 2 of those plays, 2 of those touchdowns, the McCaffrey 8-yard run, that was his second of the game. That was in the second half. And then the Brock Purdy throw to Brandon Ayuk. I haven't heard Shanahan talk about any running backs or any quarterbacks the way that he has with these 2 guys, because some of them, like say with Raheem Mostert, for example, like whenever he had a big touchdown run outside of like an 8-yard from the 8-yard line, I've never heard Shanahan say, yeah, actually that play wasn't even meant to be a touchdown. That play was just meant to get us inside the 3. And I had my head down. I was getting ready to call a play from the 1 and see which the goal to go plays that we had. But McCaffrey just ripped it off and got the touchdown, which I still don't know how he got out of that scrum and his head somehow stays still. I don't know how he does that. But
it had to be screwed back on.
Had to be screwed. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the screws don't let him move his neck. It's unbelievable watching this guy move. He just glides through. I liked Chris Collinsworth's description there. He just glides through the offensive line. It's crazy with like not even losing a single step. It's insane. And then Purdy's throw, like they didn't want him to Ayuk. They didn't want him to make that throw.
Yeah.
You're saying you're 27 yards out, you're going deep into the end zone, and you got guys in coverage there. The only way, the way that he proved that throw was actually worth it was in midair when it's looking like Ayuk's actually going to catch it. So now he has the players who can execute his system, but also players that are damn good and who can go the next level and kind of be their own player instead of just being, a system guy, as some have put it. Jimmy Garoppolo always went by the book, never went above it, never did his own thing, like he checked down to the open man in the flat and that's it, because he didn't have the ability to make those types of throws. Brock Purdy don't do that, right? Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he just makes he makes something out of nothing every single game. It's just, it's just constant, man. And then Debo being Debo, Juwan Jennings with that third down run, although I'll attribute that more to the Seahawks just crappy tackling. It's like, how did nobody make the hit? You had two guys holding on to him. Just from top to bottom, man. It's just they have the players, they execute it, and then they execute it beyond what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. It's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, at this point, I would say I think the only teams that could beat the 49ers are the Eagles or themselves. I think only injuries could really hurt this team at this moment, and we'll see what happens when they play the Eagles next week. But I think a lot of quarterbacks have not played well this season. I think we're putting people in the MVP frontrunner category just because their teams are doing well. And to me, I think that's kind of lazy. Like, we're saying that Jalen Hurts should be the frontrunner for MVP right now, but I got to be honest, I don't think he's having that great of a season. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is having that great of a season. I don't think really any quarterback is having that great of a season. I think the MVP frontrunner right now is hands down Christian McCaffrey. He's having, I've said this before, like a LaDainian Tomlinson type year when it comes to touchdowns. And I know that running backs don't get MVP. They haven't got one since 2012 when Adrian Peterson was MVP. But I think we should change that now, considering how I would say it's kind of a mediocre quarterback season. I think hands down Christian McCaffrey is the MVP right now.
Hands down, no doubt.
Who's a close second right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Purdy maybe, but I still think I would attribute more to the Niners' success to McCaffrey.
I think Purdy's right there.
Yeah, and some people say Tyreek Hill. I guess, but I don't know, man. I would say I don't think it's even close right now. I would say McCaffrey should be the front runner for MVP.
I just don't think he's going to get it, though, because he's a running back, and it just goes to the quarterback. Right now, I mean, I don't know. Look, if I was a betting man right now, which I haven't been for the past few years, but if I was a betting man, I'd absolutely put some money down on McCaffrey, because I'm looking at the odds right now, and you got Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, for some reason. Actually, don't even count Josh Allen. That doesn't even count. Then C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, then Christian McCaffrey's right behind him. So
yeah, that's ridiculous.
So if you could put some money down, if you have the ability to do it on Christian McCaffrey, I'd do it now, because it doesn't look like any sports books are picking that up, and they're giving you very good odds. So if his odds are it's looking like an average right now of, because I'm looking at a bunch of different sports books. Right now it's looking like plus 2,000. So you could put down $20 and you could win yourself, I think, like 200.
Yeah, I would take that bet right now, because I wouldn't.
$10 and win 200. Excuse me.
Well, that's what it should be, but who knows if he keeps it up, and who knows if I can see, like, if Josh Allen goes on a tear the last 7 weeks of the season, then something could change.
If he wins the MVP, that would be. You want to talk about blasphemous? That would be blasphemous.
Well, why?
For Josh Allen? Because of the way he's playing right now.
Okay, but if he turns it, well, I know, but he did have a pretty good performance against the Jets last week, and I honestly don't think it's clear cut any which way. I think that anybody, if they play well the last 7 weeks, they can win it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if he ends up beating the Eagles this weekend. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there.
Well, we'll get to that a little later.
I also want to bring this up from Shanahan because he talked about Purdy and like the conversation around him being like a Super Bowl caliber quarterback and an MVP, and I want to know if this like changes your kind of outlook on quarterbacks or if you just kind of still think it needs to be a conversation. But this was Shanahan after the win over the Seahawks.
There's so much discussion. Can a quarterback win a Super Bowl? Is he elite? Who knows, obviously, till you get to that moment. But in your mind, is Brock Purdy a Super Bowl caliber quarterback right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to say the wrong word. So, yeah, not your question, but the talk of that stuff is so ridiculous. The words elite, Super Bowl quarterback. I mean, this is the NFL. You got to have a really good football team to even talk about having a chance to get there. And when you have a really good football team, you better have a really good quarterback. And when you do that, you still better have luck with injuries. You still got to play good defense. You got to do everything. So, like, there's also been a lot of great quarterbacks who haven't won Super Bowls. And the ones who do, you don't win them on their own. They got to be on a good team, and they got to have defenses. And there's so many things that go into it. So I always kind of hate that conversation.
Well, what do you think, Steven?
I think it's a very interesting talking point, but I think with his team specifically, it's been feeling like they're one quarterback away for a long time. So I think I understand. I kind of hate the discussion around every quarterback, around all of them, because, just trying to say, oh, that's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback right there. Well, you don't always... You can't ever tell if it's a Super Bowl quarterback because like a majority really don't make it there. Like Josh Allen, for example, fantastic, hasn't made the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, awesome, hasn't made the Super Bowl. So I get that. But I think with the 49ers, it's different because they've needed someone who could take over because it's a Super Bowl caliber roster. And they did find a really good quarterback in Brock Purdy. So I kind of understand why it's now frustrating for him, but I also think he's seen why like injuries can come into play. You need luck there. You could build the roster. Like you need to have a lot of things go right to make the Super Bowl. So I guess I can understand it from that perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's that we said this before. The Niners don't really need the elite of the elite when it comes to quarterback. I think that they just need a guy that could run the offense. And Brock Purdy has flashed where you're like, damn, that's really impressive. But to the stand, like when they see Super Bowl caliber quarterback, everyone's talking about, the guys that wow you at the combine, stuff like that. I still go back to Patrick Mahomes or guys like Tom Brady, where I think they had lesser talent, but they just were carrying their teams because of their, I guess, for lack of a better word, eliteness. And they were able to win the Super Bowl because of them. And I wouldn't say Brock Purdy is that type of player, but I think when he has all the pieces in place that he can definitely deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wonder too, when I heard that, I started thinking like, obviously Purdy was the last overall pick in the draft. And where is it? I want to pick up the comment from Ernie here, who just woke up. Thank you for waking up with us. This is literally Get Up on ESPN. And you know what? Get Up on ESPN should do what I did this morning and wake up 10 minutes before they do the show and really not even drink anything, any water or anything, and let their voice just be hoarse. That's truly what Get Up means. But anyway, Ernie said the QB play hasn't been elite like previous years. And I wonder if that's an indictment on the evaluation of quarterbacks. Like how many Brock Purdy's have been out there that just didn't get their shot? 4-year starters where their potential maybe wasn't seen by a team that drafted them late and they just didn't get their opportunity. Or is Brock Purdy just one of one? Like I wonder if has there been any Brock Purdy's out there where maybe the quarterback play might be at a higher level, say if they took them later in the draft, as opposed to a lot of these younger quarterbacks now. I do wonder that.
I don't know. I think the evaluation.
You can't really answer the question. It's a hypothetical that nobody can really know. I do wonder though if there were any, but no one's really going to be able to answer that.
No, that's fair. I think we've talked about it before. I think the evaluation of quarterbacks will change slightly, but then again, scouts will always think a certain way about players. So, no, I think Kyle Shanahan's basically saying, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so you guys run with the headline. But the reality is, no, we don't need a Super Bowl caliber quarterback to the likes of Josh Allen or any of those guys to win. We just need the right quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, Brock Purdy is the right quarterback.
Yep.
Before we move on to the other games.
Shout out to Herb Brooks from Miracle. I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
That's a pretty good impression.
Mm-hmm.
Collinsworth. Did you hear that story about him buying the fish? Another weird moment in broadcast.
Yes.
It was hilarious, though, where he was like, I went out and got the fish at the old fish market. And so, $34. I'll get a fish for Thanksgiving. I said, get two. It'll be $80. No, $800. Come to find out it was $34 per pound. And then when, you give the fish, you take them out, you got to buy the fish. You can't go back. So I had to buy the fish. If that were me, because Chris Collinsworth has $800 that he could spend on fish. But if that were me, I'd be like, oh, and just slowly do the Homer Simpson walk away. Like, I'm not paying $800 for 2 pieces of fish. Sorry.
Of course you would.
No.
Of course. But it reminds me of The Office when Michael Scott is when Oscar is one of his family members is doing like a charity run, and he's getting the coworkers to donate money, and Steve Carell, Michael Scott, thinks that he's giving him $25, but it was $25 per mile.
Yeah.
And so like everyone's giving like $1 or $2, and then he's like walking around everyone, geez, you're cheap. How do you feel just giving $1 or $2 to those in need? How much did you give? I gave 25. It's per mile, right? How many miles are they supposed to run? Could be a marathon. Can't even compute what you're going to have to give. And then he tried to take that money back.
Yeah.
Just an all-time episode. Yeah, that's exactly what it was like with Chris Collinsworth and the fish. But yeah, he's very lucky that he's been doing this for so long.
Yeah. $800 is nothing to him when it comes to a nice fish for Thanksgiving.
Not at all.
Cowboys win 45-10 over the Commies. Dak Prescott, since losing to the 49ers, has 18 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he's playing better than probably most quarterbacks in football right now. Steven, you called it last podcast. DaRon Bland gets his 5th pick six, and that breaks the single-season record. But I would say this also. Great record. He's having an all-pro season when it comes to playing cornerback, but he's not Defensive Player of the Year. I would give that award right now to Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. I can't give that award to someone that I know touchdowns are a big deal, but I can't, the days of Deion Sanders getting Defensive Player of the Year because he brought back 3 pick sixes for the Niners in '94 are over. I think that defensive players I just think that Myles Garrett's having a better season. TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are carrying their teams because their offenses are so putrid at the moment. And I would say that I would be inclined to make them the favorites over DaRon Bland.
I agree, because I don't know what actually his regular I'm looking him up right now because I want to make sure I got it right. So he's got 7.
He's got 7 and
picks.
5. Yeah.
5 pick six. 5 of them pick sixes. So if he gets more interceptions on the year, then maybe if he gets into the double digits, I think he'd be willing to be in that conversation, because this isn't a Trayvon Diggs rookie year situation where Diggs was just picking up interception after interception, but the analytical numbers of his coverage, like the passer rating allowed whenever he's targeted, not great. And you'd seen him give up some big plays. DaRon Bland's a little different than that. Right now, he is the top cornerback in the NFL in the deeper, more advanced statistical categories. And I think for cornerbacks, those do matter. And he is the top cornerback in the league right now. There's no debating that. But with Myles Garrett, the fact that the Browns are still in contention, even though they've got this quarterback whose name I still can't remember, Dorian Thompson Robinson, whatever it is, and they're still in the hunt. Like, and you also don't see DaRon Bland just, we've been using this word a lot this morning, but just wrecking games.
Yeah.
Tell that bird out there to shut up. All right. We're doing a pod. We're doing a pod.
Hey, don't think I didn't hear Jesse making coffee. All right.
Yeah, she's being fantastic right now. I know she wants to be sleeping, but she is helping me as much as she can. Thank you.
Next time, close the door when you start the podcast.
Sorry. I left it open for the cat. Yeah. No, it's real. It's real life. Yeah, man. He hasn't just wrecked games though, like those guys have. Like, you can't say that DaRon Bland has been the reason that Cowboys have won games. You could say that TJ Watt or Myles Garrett have been the reason they won games. And it's interesting too, going back to your the stats about the sacks for the defensive line. Like, Nick Bosa's picked up 5 in the last 2 games or whatever it is, or the last 3.
Games, yeah.
But how many of them have just been like half a sack because the defensive line is just getting to the quarterback?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think like that kind of takes away from the impact that he truly had. Like, I mean, you could really count it. Like, I don't know. I personally, I don't know if I'd count it as 1, because I think the half sack stat, I think that's too much. I think you just give 1 to each person who was hit on it. You know what I mean? Just let these guys go. Because I wonder if Nick Bosa actually has more than that. If he was the one like initiating the contact and he gets the full sack, I wonder what his numbers would look like then. Because, God, I felt bad for Geno Smith in that game. There were just so many linemen around him. But getting back to the point about Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, sometimes they're just doing it on their own. Or they're just taking straight up. They're just taking 2 guys with them and just bursting through the line. I've seen TJ Watt have some just moments this year where he's just like scary, terrifying. Yeah. When he takes off his helmet and he screams, it's terrifying.
There's 3 games in particular where he's won the game for them. He had the fumble recovery for a touchdown against the Browns. He had the fumble recovery against the Ravens. And he had the interception against the Rams. So to me, those moments stand out more. Myles Garrett, obviously, it was a special teams play, but him jumping over the pile and blocking. And they've won games because of him. I would say I would be more inclined to give Micah Parsons Defensive Player of the Year over DaRon Bland, and they're on the same team. So that's just the unfairness of being a defensive back. I think the last one that won Defensive Player of the Year was Stephon Gilmore, and that was kind of a weird year where nobody was standing out. So, yeah, I would say that while DaRon Bland's having a great year, I would say there's people that are having better Defensive Player of the Year seasons. But yeah, Cowboys win 45-10, and their average margin of victory at home is 29 points. So they dominate at home. But once again, I don't think my opinion of them changes at all, because the Commanders are not really the elite of the elite when it comes to teams in this league. So I still think that they haven't really impressed me yet. They're beating up on the bad teams. The Commanders, they traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young, and their defense has not been playing well. They fired Jack Del Rio, so now he has more time to hang out with the Jan 6 brethren. But I would say that slip that in there. I would say that I'm not really any more impressed with the Cowboys. I would say that if I'd rank it right now, I go Eagles, 49ers, and after the Thanksgiving game, I would say Cowboys leapfrog the Lions just by a little bit.
Jack Del Rio and his what'd you say after that? No, I agree with
Jan 6 brethren.
No, I know that. What'd you say after that? I think I got what you said for the most part. No, I wish we could disagree here, but like, this is where the clear national bias is showing on the sports talk shows right now. Because like any other team, they'd be talking about strength of schedule, but right now they're propping up the Cowboys like one of the best teams in the NFL. And I don't know how you could buy into it when all these home games have been against the Jets, the Patriots, the Rams, the Giants, and then the freaking Commanders and the Rams. Like I already mentioned the Rams, but the Rams are the best team out of all those guys.
Yep.
And that's like the sad part about it. So how much can we really make of it? I don't want to. I wish I believed in them, but they do this every single year. This happens. I'm not going to fall for it again. You know, like the Cowboys dominate in the regular season. Dak Prescott looks like Dak Prescott. But then when you get to the playoffs, and you know what? It very well could be another Cowboys versus Niners matchup. I think the Niners win that right now. I don't see who's stopping them, especially with the way that the secondary has been playing for the 49ers too, just in general. So I'm not going to believe it, but, you know, putting up 45 points on Thanksgiving is nothing to sneeze at. And that celebration with the turkey leg, did you like that? Or do you think that was a little much?
Well, at first I was like, where the hell did he get that turkey leg from?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, did he have that in his pants the whole time? And then I was like, they put a turkey in the Salvation Army bucket? That's kind of gross. Like, how long has that been sitting there?
Mm-hmm.
You got to refrigerate turkey.
Did you see him chewing it afterwards?
Why was it like?
It was
rough?
so dry. It was so dry. He was chewing it, and it looked like he was Pete Carroll chewing gum. Took a bite of it, and he's like, you could tell in his head he wanted to say, God, this turkey sucks.
Yeah. Well, him running around with a turkey leg, I was like, what the hell? Where did that come from? And it reminded me a little bit of like, oh, we're doing a Mark Sanchez eat the hot dog thing. I remember when he beat up on the Raiders, he snuck the hot dog. I was like, you know, next time they play the Commanders, I'm sure they'll remember that, you know, but whatever. They're having fun on Thanksgiving. Transitioning to the Packers-Lions game. So we obviously talked about the Niners getting the turkey. Cowboys obviously got the turkey. Deron Bland came out with Dak Prescott. They ate the turkey legs. How the hell is Fox not going to give Jordan Love turkey? I was watching that, and I was like, they're talking about, hey, you know, you're the John Madden player of the game. We know you're looking for turkey. We don't have turkey this year, but we're making a donation to your charity, blah, 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 which is very nice. But Jordan Love had maybe the best moment of his career, and they're not. It's always been a tradition. The best player in a Thanksgiving game eats a turkey leg. And people are speculating that Greg Olsen took the turkey and started eating it himself, which he did on the broadcast. But how are they not going to give Jordan Love, like Fox? Come on. You don't have a turkey lying around that you give Jordan Love?
Yeah, that's bad luck because he looked as good as he has. Like he really, that was a big game for him. You know, it was even worse for Jared Goff. Jared Goff was just awful. But, you know, those 2 touchdowns right away, like that was Jordan Love right there creating those touchdowns. He absolutely deserved one. I didn't catch the end of that. I'm just hearing about this, and I looked it up. I just typed Jordan Love turkey, and I didn't know this actually happened.
It was awkward. It was like Aaron Andrews coming out there and saying like, "Yeah, we don't have a turkey for it." And I was like, "How do you not have a turkey for him? What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's weird. But Jordan Love played a great game. Like I said, the best of his career so far. And Jared Goff, once again, for the second week in a row, stunk. And the 2 fumbles were costly, big time. And I think, you know, I texted you, the Lions are starting to remind me of the Vikings from a season ago. A little bit. I still think they're going to win that division, hands down. But as far as them making, you know, Super Bowl or whatnot, or them being, you know, a great playoff team, I don't know, just because they're so young and I should say more inexperienced. But then again, Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl, so I don't know. But it seems to me like they should have lost last week, and they lost this week. And I got to say, Dan Campbell's decision to go for the fake punt was terrible. Like, it was a 4th and 5, I want to say, and you're giving it to the fullback. They gifted the Packers a touchdown right away.
Right.
If they don't go for that fake punt, the Lions have a chance to win that game. Just think about the math and everything. They ran that play on their own 20-yard line around there, and they gifted the Packers a touchdown. Immediately, Jordan Love throws a touchdown to Christian Watson.
Yeah.
And it was too little too late. The Lions, they love to come back in games, but they didn't have enough time. They go for it on 4th down a lot. Like Dan Campbell, he's got a little Brandon Staley in him at sometimes where it could totally backfire on him, and it did this last game. I will say this also. You look at the Packers lately, I think they've won 3 in a row or 4 in a row, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you look at their schedule. I think they could sneak into the playoffs. I think they're playing pretty good football right now. Their defense is improving. And actually, the defense has played well all season. It's just the offense. The offense is improving. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers sneak into the playoffs as like a 10-7 or a 9-8 team. So when we look back on this, it may not be that big of a loss to the Lions, but all in all, right now, not a good look with the way they performed.
They have an easy schedule coming up, barring the next week's game against the Chiefs, because after that, it could very well just be 4 straight wins. You got the Giants, the Buccaneers, or 5 straight, rather. You got the Giants, the Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, Bears. Yeah, I could see them absolutely sneaking into the playoffs. I think we've overreacted a lot to John Dickinson. That's it. Yeah, Ernie, did you guys see the John Dickinson? Yeah, I saw that John Dickinson was on Freezing Cold Takes, and he owned up to it because he ended up having a segment about worst takes you've ever had. So shout out to JD.
And by the way, everyone thought that Dan Campbell was a meathead after his speech of the his introductory press conference where he was like, we're biting kneecaps. So he's not
correct. Correct. It's, I personally, like, look, man, you know what I do? I'm kind of afraid of that sort of thing, the pushback, and I need to be better at it. But I kind of refrain from posting like really strong opinions like that because I know for the most part that a lot of mine are going to be wrong if I have them that strong. So I'm like, I don't want to even look back on that and to think about that. I'd like to keep an open mind whenever something happens, like a head coaching hire or a quarterback trade or something or other. I'm so scared of getting freezing cold taked. But anyway, where was I? Jordan Love. Yeah, I think that we've overreacted to Jordan Love a lot this year. It's just been so many ups, so many downs. It's his first season in the NFL. I just think that I think it's going to be a big stretch for him in this home stretch here. And if anything, against this Lions team, he threw some dimes in that game. So I think they very well could. I wouldn't be shocked about if that happens, especially with what happened with the Vikings too.
Jordan Love's got better stats than Jalen Hurts at this point, if you really look at it. So I think that he's maturing as time has gone on. And I think that I would say right now, I'll probably take the Packers as a playoff team right now with the way they're playing.
Rashawn Gary was a beast in that game.
Yeah, 3 sacks. Yeah. I think the Lions will be fine. They'll bounce back. They got the Saints next week, so that'll be an interesting matchup. But I think they'll be fine. I think that they'll still make the playoffs and be probably the 3rd or 2nd seed when it's all said and done. But now, the Niners, it'll be interesting this weekend. If the Eagles lose and the Lions lost, they're catching some steam now at that number 1 seed. And lastly, the Dolphins beat the Jets 34-13. Look, I don't know what they were trying to accomplish with Tim Boyle as at quarterback. I think that he looked worse than Zach Wilson. That play, I don't know if you saw it, Stephen, where they threw the Hail Mary right before half, and Javon Howland runs it all the way back for a touchdown, a 100-yard interception return, or maybe moving more than that. I've seen Tim Boyle play before. I remember doing a highlight for Browns and Lions a couple years ago on NFL Network, and he looks terrible. It doesn't matter that he knows the offense. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish now with the Jets. Offensively, they're awful. They've been awful all season. I don't know if it's as simple as just Aaron Rodgers not being there. I think the offensive line it's a bad situation for him right now, currently, if he were to come back. Let me say this too before we get to the whole Jets conversation. Tua threw a pick 6 in that game and also threw a really bad interception right before the half. My opinion of Tua hasn't changed. I know he's having, an MVP caliber season, as some people say. It's mainly because he's throwing the right spots to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I think it's kind of the same deal as the Cowboys. They haven't played anybody. When they play the better teams, the more physical teams, even last week against the Raiders, Tua struggled. I'm not buying the Dolphins right now. I like Mike McDaniel. And I like the offense they run. But I think Tua gets too set on his one read, and he makes really bad interceptions. That whole Hard Knocks thing, I'm watching where that's the narrative. It is the narrative, and it's accurate. So until otherwise, I'm not buying the Dolphins from what I saw yesterday, and especially from what I've seen most of the season.
You know that if they get into the playoffs, that's going to be the downfall right there, is the play of the quarterback.
100%, yeah.
And honestly, though, I don't know how many quarterbacks would be able to just not stick with one guy, because I think that's a real challenge when you have a number one receiver, is just not trying to get to him every single time. And you have two number one receivers on that team right now with Waddle and Hill. So I do give Tua the benefit of the doubt, but you got to find a way to take that game to the next level, because if not, then he's just going to be called a system quarterback. I can't really speak on yesterday's game. Again, I was at the Sharks game, went to a shootout. They ended up losing, stunk. But yeah, I think that Tua's got to take that next step if the Dolphins want to take that next step, because right now you want to talk system quarterback. Tua's kind of that fits that mold there, as much as you don't want to call someone that, but he really is like a product of Mike McDaniel's calling plays, coaching them up, and then having the fastest player that we've seen in this generation in Hill, and then having Waddle too.
Yep. And as far as the Jets, I would say I saw the report before the game where Jay Glazer was like, whether they're in playoff contention or not, Aaron Rodgers will come back. And I think that's ridiculous. I don't think that he should come back on this team. I think that they haven't solidified the offensive line at all. They have a decision to make where, just because Aaron Rodgers was out, should they bring Nathaniel Hackett back? Was it a good idea to bring all his buddies along and they haven't done anything, like Randall Cobb or Alan Lazard? But then again, is it fair that none of these guys have had the opportunity to really show their talents because Aaron Rodgers hasn't been there? I guess what I'm asking is, should the Jets just get a redo for what happened this season? Can they take a sabbatical and be like, let's try it again? Or should heads roll this season because of what happened this season?
I don't think so. I think their biggest problem was putting their faith in Zach Wilson and just thinking he can take over and just keeping him there. Like, I agree with the offensive line. I think the offensive line, if they don't bolster that, then next year there's going to be some problems. But I really do think I do think you remain course here. I think the problem's been the quarterback. Yeah, I think it's been the fact that this is the first time we're seeing Tim Boyle, and what were their other options? There weren't other options. I do think that you could just plug and play Aaron Rodgers next year, and it'd be good with Nathaniel Hackett, because there's just a certain connection they have that you don't get with a lot of quarterbacks and offensive coordinators, ones who have been together for years. So I think you got to take another chance there. I think that'd be way too much of a emotional decision in order to do that. I think it'd be way too reactionary. And look at the points that they've scored. I don't know if you could call it on the offensive coordinator, but they've scored, let's just take
9 touchdowns on the whole season.
It takes it's the only or
maybe 10 now. I think it's 10.
Their highest score is 31. That was against the Broncos. But since then, 14 against the Eagles, 13 against the Giants, 6 against the Chargers, 12 against the Raiders, 6 against the Bills, 13 against the Dolphins. You cannot just say that this was fully on the offensive coordinator. I really think it's on the quarterback. And that's Zach Wilson's just not ready for the NFL, and he's probably not going to be an NFL quarterback for much longer. He might be in the Canadian Football League or the XFL for all we know.
Damn. Well, yeah, I'm with you on that, Steven. I think that knowing the hype around this team, they'll probably just run it back. But I would strongly advise against Aaron Rodgers coming back this season. I think that's stupid at this point.
No, there's no point in trying to rush it back. If he does, I'd question the severity of that injury.
He had the Cam Akers recovery, I guess, but at the same time, what's the point? If you rush it back too soon, then there's all the chance in the world that he re-aggravates it again and he tears it one more time. So He's 40 years old. He's going to be 40, I think, in a couple of weeks here. He's going to come back next year and be 41. Take your time. If this whole thing is around you, then I know it sucks. Believe me, this has been a huge disappointment this season, one that NFL fans have gotten over. But, I think we'll always remember, God, what could have been with Aaron Rodgers this season. But then next year they'll open the season up, I'm sure, with Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football against the Bills one more time, just to redo the whole damn thing again. And we'll go from there.
I think he can't say anything about how he's not coming back, because that would also decrease the viewership of his appearances on the Pat McAfee show. Every week, that I mean, that's
No, I know,
kind of an elephant in the room there is that he's getting paid to do these weekly appearances.
Yeah.
And I think he's just trying to get people's hopes up. But that talk has grown, well, not grown, has shrunk to awfully quiet because what was it? Really at the beginning of this month, he kind of started saying, you know what? It's December, not out of the cards. Well, now your Jets have lost 4 straight games and have pretty much taken themselves out of any sort of playoff hope that you had.
No, but like I said, Jay Glazer says that he's going to come back regardless.
It's ridiculous.
I agree. All right. I know everybody wants to watch Ohio State and Michigan, so let's go through these picks really quick. The thing we call wins or wangs. We're tied at the moment, Steven, 6-6 from our picks with the 4 games from Thursday to Friday. So let's do this thing we call wins or wangs.
Ooh, got the music. Yeah.
All right, let's do this thing. Tampa Bay at Indy. Indianapolis is 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 44.5.
I think the Colts can roll at home, so give me the Colts, lay the points, but I'm going to take the under in this game.
I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to go over just because I like the Colts offense. I think Shane Steichen's calling it up and scheming it up pretty well. The New England Patriots at the New York Giants. We got Tommy DeVito, baby, versus TBD, because Belichick will not announce. Am I lowering the music a little bit, Steven?
It's all right.
Sorry, I just know people could hear me because I got not a great connection with me being in Del Boca Vista. New England at the Giants. Tommy DeVito versus TBD because we do not know who's playing quarterback for the Patriots. But if I had to guess, I think they're sticking with Mac Jones. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites, and the over/under is a whopping 34.
In the words of Tommy DeVito. Sorry, I'm tired. If you pick against the Giants this week, you're stupid. Did you see him say that to Isaiah Simmons?
He said that?
Yeah, after Isaiah Simmons had a pick 6. I don't know. I guess it's a Jersey thing. Shout out South Park. But he after he had the pick 6, he goes, "Stupid, dude," and then he gives him a high five. Yeah, I'll take the Giants to win it outright.
Wow.
I'm gonna have them upset the New England Patriots here at home. Tommy DeVito's rolling right now, but I will take the under in that, even though it's a really low number, 34. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't pick Tommy DeVito versus Bill Belichick. Despite how terrible the Patriots look this year, I still got to ride with Belichick when he plays a rookie quarterback. So I'm taking the Patriots. I'm laying the points, but I'm definitely taking that under.
Okay.
Then we got Carolina at Tennessee. Tennessee is 3.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 36.5.
Tennessee's just a different team at home, man. So I'm going to lay the points. I think that defense is going to get after Bryce Young. And you know what? Just to give Will Levis some credit, I'll go over in that one. I think they can reach over.
I'll give Will Levis credit, but I'm not going to give any credit to Bryce Young at the moment. He's struggling. So yeah. I'm going to do the same as you with the Tennessee Titans and the points, but I'm going under on that 36.5.
That pick's not looking good, dude. You don't want to ever say anyone's a bust right away, especially with the team around him. But he does not look good.
I know. Well, apparently Frank Reich's on the hot seat because of the whole development of Bryce Young, which I think is way too soon for that. But we'll see what happens. Actually, interesting game just because of where they are with this division in the South. New Orleans Saints at the Falcons. I think Derek Carr is still in concussion protocol. We don't know what his deal is yet. He may not even play in the game. We don't know. It might be Jameis. But the Saints, regardless, are 1.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 41.5. Desmond Ridder gets the start.
I can't pick the Falcons, man. I know it's a home team, and I think I had him as a surprise team to make the playoffs, but I don't know. Arthur Smith just doesn't seem to use these guys, so I'm not confident in it. But lay the points with the Saints and give me the over.
I am going with the Falcons at home. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the Saints just lay down when they're on the road. And I don't know if Derek Carr is going to be 100% healthy. So with that in mind, and I'm not a big Desmond Ridder guy, but I'm going to take the Falcons to win, and I'm going to go over on that 41.5.
Yeah, and this is not a game we'd actually try to bet on because no one knows what's going to happen here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Jacksonville at Houston. Very interesting game in the South. Houston could sweep the Jags here, which would be interesting for the division. Jags are 1.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 47.5.
I think it's going to be a shootout. I actually think this could be the game of the week. Jaguars-Texans, a very intriguing matchup. You kind of got Trevor Lawrence kind of, on a – I don't know if he's on like the same tier as C.J. Stroud right now, but C.J. Stroud really rising and ascending as a rookie. But I think the Jaguars come out on top in this one and give me the over. I'll lay the points with the Jags.
I'm going to do the exact same thing. I think that C.J. Stroud, throwing 3 picks last week, having a great season and hands down the offensive rookie of the year. But I think there's some tells now that the defense could look at. So, and I think the Jags are just not going to get swept by the Texans. So I'm taking the Jags to win. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's the first time we'll be seeing the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Just another reminder of a quarterback that's out for the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 35.5. Matt Canada gone. New offensive coordinator in there for the Steelers.
Though I think Matt Canada was an issue and I think he was a problem, I don't think anything's going to change as much with the offense. They still have a Kenny Pickett problem who has not been good this year, but I think this is going to be like a 17-13 game going to the Steelers. So lay the points with the Steelers and give me that under.
Yep, I'm doing the exact same thing, Steven, for the exact same reasons. Just because Joe Burrow's out, and I think that defense will feast on what's the backup's name? Burrowing or
Jake Browning.
Browning. I could think of Burrow. Jesus. Then we got the Rams at the Arizona Cardinals, and the Rams are 2.5-point favorites, over under 45.
This is a tough one. I don't know what to make of the Rams anymore. I mean, is Stafford healthy? Like, I don't even know what's going on with him.
I don't think Cooper Kupp is.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp's not, but they still got Puka Nacua, and this could be an interesting matchup there. I think the Rams should win, so yeah, lay the points with the Rams, but give me the over because I think that Kyler Murray is going to score some points for the Cardinals, but ultimately I think the Rams come out on top.
I like that over, and I like the Cardinals to win. I think that they're actually playing pretty good football right now. They shouldn't have, but they were in that game against the Texans, and I don't know how they're going to look. I think the Rams are a little banged up right now, so I'm going to take the Cardinals to win, and I like that over. Then we got the Cleveland Browns at the Denver Broncos. Both teams playing very good football, more defensive-oriented football. Dorian Thompson-Robinson still getting the start for the Browns, I believe. The Broncos are 1.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 37.
I think you'd be crazy to take the over in this game. I am definitely going under. God, though, do I trust the Browns defense enough to win them this game? Because I don't trust the quarterback. The quarterback's not good. You know what? The Broncos are rolling right now. I'll take the Broncos. Lay the points with the Broncos, but give me the under.
I'm doing the exact same thing, and I think this is the last week we will see Dorian Thompson-Robinson play quarterback. I think eventually they have to go back to P.J. Walker if they're serious about being a playoff team. Like, I don't know what they're doing there.
That's a crazy statement.
Yeah.
They have to go back to P.J. Walker if they're serious about being a playoff team.
Seriously. I mean, as we said, this is a bad year for quarterbacks being out for the season, but he's the better quarterback. Kansas City at the Raiders. First time we're seeing this matchup this season. And the Chiefs coming off a big loss against the Eagles. So this is fun for the Raiders. It sounds like Max Crosby not going to play. Something up with his knee right now that came out of nowhere. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites, and the over-under is 43.5.
What do you got on this one? I've been choosing all of these right away, and I'm interested to see what you have to say.
I think after the loss to the Eagles, the Chiefs will be on their shit, and the guys, all the wide receivers, will be catching passes. They won't drop anything, and they'll kick the Raiders' ass. Unfortunately, bad time for the Raiders to play the Chiefs. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win. I'm going to lay the points. I'm going to go over.
Wow, it's a good call. I don't think the Chiefs wide receivers, though, are going to pick it. And I think the Raiders managed to make these games close. I'm still going to take the Chiefs to win, but I'll have the Raiders cover that number and give me the over.
All right, then. Then we got, I think, the matchup of the week. Got the Buffalo Bills at the Philadelphia Eagles. The over-under is 48.5, and the Philadelphia Eagles on a short week are favored by 3 points.
Seeing as the defenses this year, I think actually have been kind of disappointing. At least the secondaries for both of them, since Tre'Davious White's been out for the Bills. And that secondary for the Eagles, man, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to act like I've seen every single snap, but there are a lot of plays where it's like they're miscommunicating. They leave a lot of open receivers. I didn't see that at all last year. Just guys wide open over the middle of the field. So I think the over is in play here. Give me the over in this game. But I think the Eagles just know how to win. They're in Philadelphia. I think it's going to be cold. I think Josh Allen could struggle a little bit, at least enough to lose them the game, or to help them lose the game, rather. So lay the points with the Eagles and give me the over.
I think this is where we saw the Bills at 5-5 and thought their season was over. I was guilty of that as well, and I think they go on a roll now. I'm taking the Bills to win, and I'm going under. I think that they figured out a defensive game plan against Jalen Hurts. I think that the Eagles ran the high off the Chiefs victory, come home, and they get their ass kicked by the Buffalo Bills, and no one sees it coming. I got the Bills winning, and I like the under.
And AJ Cruz poses an interesting question. Actually, I want to discuss it after we make the rest of the picks. We still got just 2 more to go, but I want to get to that question after because it surrounds Travis Kelce, and I want to get your take on it.
Fair enough. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. And, of course, Chargers always lose in one-score fashion, so the Ravens are 3-point favorites, and the over-under is 48.
I think it's going to happen again. Give me the Chargers to cover it. Give me the Ravens to win, and I will take the over. Scary cover there, man, but I think it's going to
be... that is a scary cover. Yikes. I'm going to lay the points with the Ravens just to be safe, but I think they're going to win. And you got the over, you got the under?
I got the over.
I'm going to go under on this one. I think we'll see better defense from Brandon Staley after he was called out for his defensive play calling. And then we got the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The over-under is 43, and those Vikings are favored by 3.
I actually think the Bears can make this a game. At some point, the honeymoon has to end here with Josh Jacobs. And, I don't think the Bears want to come away with another game like they had against the Lions. So I'm actually going to take the Bears to win it.
Wow.
I think I think they could turn some heads here. I'm going to take the Bears to win and give me the over in this game.
I think that just Kevin O'Connell is a pretty good play caller, and he'll get things right for Josh Dobbs, even though he might struggle here or there with not really knowing the scheme. But I got the Vikings winning. I'll lay the points, and I'll go over.
All right.
And the music stopped. Perfect.
So the question from AJ that I wanted to ask you, you think Kelce's getting distracted with his boo with Taylor Swift? Because Kelce did not look the same in that last game. And then AJ continued saying the Mahomes-Kelce connection always pays dividends, but some of that mojo seems slipping. Not blaming T Swift, but if KC's receivers aren't catching balls, it's going to make life rough for Mahomes. Do you think that any of the Taylor Swift stuff is going on?
No.
Do you think that's impacting his play?
None whatsoever. I think that it's just simply that Travis Kelce is getting older, and he came into the season with an injury. So no, I don't think Taylor Swift's having an impact on Travis Kelce.
Can we just marvel really quick at what Kelce's been able to do? Okay, this guy. Okay,
guess what? Okay, this guy went to Taylor Swift and said, "I'm a boar hunter." Okay.
All time. But this guy had 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh gosh, they're doing that thing. 5, 6, 7 consecutive seasons where he's posting over 1,000 yards. In 5 of those seasons, he posted over 1,200, and now he's at 34 years old. I just think that this dude is the wear and tear is really starting to get to him. And I think that GQ article that he did was pretty telling when he said, "I don't talk about it much, but retirement is on my mind more than it ever has been before." He has nothing left to prove. And I think that last game, you're seeing him get a little slower. You're seeing him drop balls that he would normally make catches on.
Yeah.
I just think Father Time is starting to catch up to him. And it just so happens that he is dating maybe right now this generation's most, I'd say, sought after pop star, probably outside of Beyonce, Taylor Swift right there.
Well, next to Dolly Parton.
Next to Dolly Parton, yeah. Dolly Parton's an absolute legend. That Jack Harlow performance, by the way, yeah, dude. he is like, I'm a big
adding
music fan.
to my case, I can't stand when white people rap.
Why?
I'm joking.
Okay, good.
Just, you know, it was lazy. It was a lazy performance.
That's the thing is like these new artists, none of them take risks anymore. None of them try anything different. That's why I respect guys like Kid Cudi, for example. Like, even though he's come out with some stinkers since his early stuff, he's at least tried something new, tried something different. Jack Harlow just makes the same just mid song every single time he comes out with one, but it's a total banger to these younger kids. This younger generation, all right? Now I'm 30 years old, all right? Now I feel like I could say this because I don't know anyone. I could honestly say I do not know anyone that's a high schooler. Like, I don't know anyone that's of high school age or college age. I don't know anyone from the age of like 10 to, or I mean, well, you know what? I do have I do have Jesse's cousins who I know, but yeah, so I guess they're around that age, 13, 14. But I don't know what high schoolers are into, but apparently they're really into Jack Harlow. And I'm like, this guy is so
he sucks.
Mediocre, so boring. Like, what is the hype around this dude? I used to be a really big fan of him, actually. Like, he's been in the game for a while.
Okay.
I used to be because he was performing at Bonnaroo when I went. That was back in 2018. I didn't go see him, but I listened to some of his music. I was like, this stuff's
when
pretty
you
sick.
say when you say he's been in the game in a while, you mean like just stealing Mac Miller's act?
Well, yeah, but Mac Miller, don't you dare compare him to Mac Miller.
I'm not. Believe me, I understand.
Don't you dare.
I understand people like Mac Miller. It wasn't my cup of tea, but rest in peace.
Don't you dare.
I'm not. What I'm saying is that this guy, there's nothing special to him whatsoever. He sucks.
Yeah. There's nothing special to any of these newer artists nowadays.
No.
And all of them think that, like, I've heard, I think, like, who was it? Lil Yachty come out. Who's actually made some newer music that's different to what he did, but every single song that he came out with sounded the exact same. And for whatever reason, people still listen to it. And then he came out and said, you know, a lot of today's rappers don't try to be different. A lot of them try to, you know, just kind of stick with what's comfortable. I'm like, you're a part of that, bro.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with today's music is they don't think they're part of the problem when they are. And it's just so based on streams and just like these short 2-minute songs, which I just don't understand. And then like I listened to a guy like A$AP Rock, not A$AP Rocky, A$AP Rock, who's from Portland, originally from New York. I think he's actually I read this on his Wikipedia. I mean, but it comes from an actual article where he has literally used the most unique words in his songs.
Oh, God,
like, the amount of different words that he's used, like he's used more than any rapper in history. Like that's how different he is. And he's still doing it at 40 plus. He just came out with this album called Integrated Tech Solutions. It's awesome.
Oh, fuck
so,
yeah,
like,
I'll listen to that.
Yeah, man. And like Nas is still coming out with bangers. All these old school guys are just blowing these
Nas is trying to get a little trendy these days, but I still respect him. No, A$AP Rock I've listened to since college, and he's one of the more intellectual rappers I've ever listened to, where his rhymes don't even rhyme. He's just saying words. You're like, what the hell was that?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But there's one song he has on this new album. It's literally just about rivers. He's like, I like rivers. I like rivers. And then he starts rapping about like random things. He's like finding a jalopy at the bottom of the ocean, whatever it is. It's like crazy.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
You're talking about artists that take chances. And I know a lot of people are upset that Andre 3000 finally came out with an album, but apparently it's all flutes. It's not him rapping at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say to people, yeah, that's disappointing because you want to hear Andre 3000 rap. But I saw an interview where he was like, "What am I going to rap about at 48 years old getting a colonoscopy?" I respect that he's like, "I'm 48 right now. I can't relate to the things that I rapped about back in the day." But then again, him coming out with a flute album is so on brand because Andre 3000, while he was an amazing artist, is fucking nuts. And I go back to that Key and Peele sketch where he's like seeing Big Boy at the Starbucks and be like, "Oh, perchance to see you here," and just like, why does your breath smell like birdseed? That is Andre 3000. He's a crazy bastard, and I've heard him on guest appearances the last couple of years. I think he's been on some Kanye albums, and he's been on some. I think he was on Tribe Called Quest's album that came out a couple years ago.
He was on the Killer Mike record earlier this year.
You're right. Absolutely. He's amazing, but he's not going to do what you expect him to do. And that's, I respect him for that. Do I want to listen to his flute album? I like flutes if you rap over them. But yeah, I mean, that's so on brand, I would say.
He's just living his life, man. And anyone who's kept up with like Andre 3000 sightings would know that this was a long time coming, because like no one had seen him for years in the public eye. Then out of nowhere, there was a video of him playing the flute at a Starbucks. Yeah.
See, that's so on brand.
He was just outside of a Starbucks just playing the flute.
Yeah.
like what? So
people love to hear you, Andre 3000, play some gas flute.
I really wasn't prepared. Yeah.
Hey, Aqualung.
But that's just it's who he is. I think that he's he's just a different dude. I don't need him to make music. I've listened to the International Players Anthem like 7 times since that album came out, just because I don't know, I forgot how good that song was, and then it's just like, just the build up with his verse at the beginning, and then the drums come in, and it's
every girl I CC around, every girl I CC. Was it every girl I CC around town with CC? It's a great line.
Yeah. Every girl that CC me, I CC around town. It's so good. Yeah. Keep your heart 3 stacks. It's so good, dude.
Play your part.
Yeah.
Back to your main point though, Stephen, with Travis Kelce. I think we'll get to a point here where we ask, is he when it comes to Chiefs all-time greatest tight ends, has he surpassed Tony Gonzalez at this point?
I'd have to look back at stats.
He doesn't have the stats. I don't think he has the stats like Tony G, but he's definitely accomplished more than Tony G.
Yeah, I'd say so. Put Tony Gonzalez though with Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see how long his career would have lasted. Also, Tony G was doing this for a long, long time, and Travis Kelce, even though he's been fantastic since he turned 23. Tony Gonzalez was doing this since he was 21. So there's the longevity there. And funnily enough, the last time Tony Gonzalez played with the Chiefs, he was 32 and Kelce's 34. So they're pretty much right there in lockstep with each other. But then Gonzalez kept the career with the Falcons going. And I remember having him on my fantasy team. Like, he's just putting up these numbers during that Matt Ryan year. So I think that, I'd say he surpassed him though, because Kelce's been the option to go to when they don't have receivers, and they managed to win a Super Bowl with Kelce as the number 1 guy.
Yeah, and, but there was Trent Green with the Chiefs, so it was very different.
Right. Yeah. I'd say his career was better, but I'd go, I'd probably say I'd put Travis Kelce more with the Chiefs, I think, but I'd put Tony Gonzalez higher in the ranking of tight end.
No, that's fair. And I would say Travis Kelce more entertaining on a microphone than Tony Gonzalez. Hands down.
Very much so.
All right. I think Michigan, Ohio State has kicked off, so let everybody watch that. Stephen, have fun at Stanford and Notre Dame today.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you guys. Let's see here. We only got the Raider game to recap this next episode. And we got Draymond Green coming back on Tuesday night. So how about Wednesday next week, Stephen?
I'm good with that.
All right, let's do it. We'll see you guys then. Ernie's Wake Up. Don't forget about our podcast. Come on, guys. What are you doing? I'm kidding. Whenever you guys can make it, cool. AJ Cruz, thanks for hopping on at 8 o'clock this morning with us. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Until then, enjoy your Thanksgiving leftovers. Steven, say what you always say.
It's, what do I say? It's just the opinion, man. I'm Tony Gonzalez.